Tonight on To The Point, Governor Newsom once again making national headlines while taking aim at Republicans. What he wants to do for women seeking abortions in other states.
We've had a 17% increase since Dobbs of people accessing reproductive care in the state of California.
How pro-life advocates and lawmakers are responding. Plus, the Supreme Court taking up arguments today on whether the unhoused should be criminalized for sleeping outside. The impact it could have in California. Millions of cicadas are about to emerge from the ground. The science behind it and why we won't see them in California. And later, a new state park is coming to the San Joaquin Valley when it will open to visitors.
Thank you so much for starting your week with us. On To The Point, I'm Alex Bell. Tonight, Californians are responding to Arizona's Supreme Court ruling that upheld an 1864 ban on abortions. Now, Governor Gavin Newsom wants to make abortion services easier for women and providers. But many Californians say it's time to make the state pro-life. ABC 10's Jeannie Nguyen shares their message and how some lawmakers are responding.
We just really want women to know that they have options, all kinds of options.
As the executive director of PCS Health in Placerville, it's important for Brooke Nave to have her organization be a part of the March for Life rally.
We're just supporting the whole movement here, trying to get our name out there to offer resources.
The message here today is life matters. And as you can see behind me, there are thousands of people here at this pro-life rally. And all of this comes just after Governor Gavin Newsom doubled down on his support of providers and women seeking abortion services.
Miss, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. Take a pregnancy test.
This ad is Governor Newsom's latest set to air in Alabama. This comes after the Arizona Supreme Court decided to uphold the ban on abortion. On Monday, the governor responded by saying there will be legislation to make it easier for Arizona women to get an abortion in California.
It's already impacting the state. We've had a 17% increase since Dobbs of people accessing reproductive care in the state of California. It's already placed a burden on our healthcare system.
Adding there will be a proposal to offer abortion providers an easier way to get licensed in the state.
We create a licensing regime through for the medical board itself that allows these temporary licenses until the voters ultimately in Arizona can overturn, which I imagine they will.
But pro-life advocates say they're fighting back.
We're working with legislators in states across the country with our attorneys testifying to support pushing the envelope further to protect the preborn.
And for Nave, she says her organization will remain a resource for all women.
Regardless of the laws, the truth is it is their choice, a woman's choice, whether it's legal or not in their state.
All right, let's bring in Jeannie, who has been following this today. We know that the governor is expected to meet with lawmakers this week about this legislation. He's supposed to meet with the Women's Caucus. You did speak with the senator on that caucus today. Was she able to give you any more insight?
Well, Alex, I spoke with Senator Angelique Ashby today, and while she couldn't say much today, she did say that if California is able to speed up the process to license abortion providers in Arizona, it would help and it'd be well worth our time if women here are able to have autonomy of their bodies.
All right, and I also want to mention that Arizona law is currently making its way through legal battles. So the Arizona Attorney General says that the earliest this ban can take effect is on June 8th. So we'll continue to follow this. All right, in other news tonight, around 24 sexual predators were caught attempting to meet with children for sexual purposes by Sacramento County Sheriff's deputies. It was part of a sting operation for their Internet Crimes Against Children team. Detectives posed as children on various social media platforms, and suspects would then arrange to meet with the intent to have sex. Many can be seen in this video right here, taken by the sheriff's office. Now, the operation resulted in 24 arrests, including a Sunday school teacher, a postal worker, and even a former San Jose fire captain.
It can happen to you, it can happen anywhere. Be on guard. These predators are out there, and they prey on our kids. We've got to stop it.
Some of the charges the suspects are facing include contacting a minor with the intent for sex, harmful material sent to a child, and arranging to meet with a child for sex. Tonight, 2 people are dead and a teen is seriously hurt in a suspected DUI crash. It happened around 5 a.m. yesterday near the intersection of Laguna and Holly Drive. Police say a Dodge Charger crashed into a parked and unoccupied Chevy pickup truck. A 24-year-old female passenger and an 18-year-old male passenger died. A 15-year-old boy is in the hospital with some serious injuries, and police say the 24-year-old driver was arrested for driving under the influence. For the second time this year, the California legislature is taking up a bill that could crack down on some of how the nation's largest utilities spend their customers' money, Right now, utility companies aren't allowed to use the money from customers to pay for things like advertising or lobbying. Instead, utilities must pay for them with money from private investors. However, consumer groups say that utilities are finding ways around those rules. So Senate Bill 938, that's where this comes in. It would expand the definitions of prohibited advertising and political influence to include things like regulators' decisions on rate settings and then also franchises for electrical and gas corporations. It would also allow regulators to fine utilities that break the rules, and the committee is hearing arguments of this bill right now. If it fails again, it likely won't pass this year. Does arresting or fining an unhoused person for camping on public property amount to cruel and unusual punishment? That was the question before the U.S. Supreme Court justices today. And their decision, which is expected in June, could have a huge impact on how California can address our homelessness crisis. Rebecca Habegger is following this case and spoke with some of our unhoused neighbors today about the possible impact.
House keys, not handcuffs! House keys, not handcuffs!
Advocates for the unhoused gathered outside the federal courthouse in Sacramento Monday afternoon, urging the U.S. Supreme Court to uphold existing protections for people experiencing homelessness, like J-Cat, who also goes by Liz and is currently unhoused in Natomas.
It's a vicious cycle. It's hard when you become homeless to try to get back on your feet.
Currently, a pair of decisions by the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals bans local and state governments within its jurisdiction, including California, from arresting or fining unhoused people for camping and sleeping on public property.
Sweeps kill wherever they go!
Rallies like this happened in more than a dozen cities all across the nation Monday as the U.S. Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the biggest case about homelessness in decades. They're deciding whether to uphold those decisions by the Ninth Circuit, starting with the 2018 decision Martin v. Boise and expanding it with the 2022 Grants Pass v. Johnson decision. The appellate court has said it is unconstitutional for a city, county, or state to fine or criminally charge someone for camping in a public space when they have nowhere else to go. The court saying it violates the Eighth Amendment ban of cruel and unusual punishment. Now, advocates say such citations criminalize homelessness.
You can't jail and arrest people, disappear people, erase people because they have no money.
But critics like Governor Gavin Newsom say the Grants Pass and Boise decisions tie the hands of local and state leaders when it comes to addressing homelessness.
The impediments under Grants Pass and the courts have imposed, it's a real issue.
He and Sacramento County District Attorney Tian Ho, who attended the Supreme Court hearing, are among the people and groups asking the Supreme Court to reverse the Ninth Circuit ruling. Ho saying it has worsened our unhoused crisis. During Monday's arguments, we heard justices ask attorneys about the scope of what reversing the decision could mean.
Where do we put them if every city, every village, every town lacks compassion and passes a law identical to this?
Ultimately, local advocates for the unhoused, like Crystal Sanchez, say whatever the high court's ruling, communities desperately need more housing.
Martin versus Boise basically covers the fact that they can't move people in public spaces without adequate shelter. We don't have shelter. We have a wait list here in Sacramento of over 2,500 people.
A lot to unpack for this ongoing conversation. Again, Becca has been following this. As we mentioned, that court's decision expected in June. But what are the possible outcomes?
Yeah, I spoke with a legal expert at University of the Pacific's McGeorge School of Law, Ron Hochbaum. He laid out the three most likely potential outcomes. The one, justices could uphold the lower court decision, which he said could incentivize states to focus more on housing solutions. Two, the Supreme Court could overturn the precedent in Martin v. Boise and say, we think camping bans do not, in fact, violate the Eighth Amendment. And now a third option is something the U.S. government is recommending in this case, that local and state governments have the flexibility to respond on a case-by-case basis. So say maybe one person truly has nowhere else to go, so they wouldn't be fined or charged, whereas someone else camping might have other options they're not choosing.
This argument is designed to allow cities that have open shelter beds to enforce the anti-homeless laws, because some courts were interpreting Martin v. Boise to mean that if the number of unhoused people exceeds the number of shelter beds in a given city or county, the laws were totally unenforceable.
Lots of moving parts.
Yeah, and a big conversation. So you already know we will continue to follow this. Becca, thank you so much for the update. We appreciate it. All right, next on To the Point. People are calling it the cicada apocalypse as millions are about to emerge from the ground, the science behind it, and what to expect in California.
We are also expecting big changes in our weather forecast, especially as we head through the middle and end of the week. Rain and snow back.
Plus, the first witness takes the stand in Trump's hush money trial. What happened in court? And then later in the show, a new state park is coming to our area, where it's located, and when you can check it out. It's being called cicada apocalypse. Millions of cicadas are about to emerge from the ground, and ABC 10 Chief Meteorologist Monica Woods tell us why this hasn't happened since Thomas Jefferson was president.
The piercing sound of the cicada apocalypse is about to take over parts of the eastern United States.
The ground is literally going to be carpeted with dead cicadas.
Once the ground 8 inches deep warms to 64 degrees, a mega swarm of 2 different types, or what's called broods of cicadas, will make their way to the surface, ready to find a mate.
For some random reason, the eastern side of North America has these periodic broods. Everywhere else on Earth, with a couple of exceptions, they emerge annually or every couple of years.
Like in California, where you may hear them chirping away this time of year. That sound coming from air in their stomach.
So think of a cicada as being built like a drum, right? And that's how they make the sound. They have a membrane on each side of the abdomen that they vibrate.
Acting like a reverb chamber. When hundreds of them make this sound, it can be deafening.
There is a species in Sydney, Australia, that is louder than a jackhammer. Now, can you imagine what a city filled with those things must be like?
Yes, we can, because I'm from Ohio and Monica's from Indiana, so we're used to this. But for people that aren't, how long will this last?
Well, it's not going to last that long, because keep in mind, these bugs basically feed underground. So they feed on the sap of a tree root. When they emerge, once they mate, the males are pretty much done, and then the females will last long enough to lay their eggs, and then as long as their food supply lasts, they'll be able to survive, but not too long.
Yeah, and I do have one question. What about the babies?
I know, right? Well, the babies are going to go back underground for another 13 to 17 years. Once they mature, you know, they'll feed on that sap, and they mature, and then they start that next generation.
An eerie sound, but very familiar.
Right, so it's the combination of these two, what they call broods, coming out and just basically covering parts of our eastern part of the U.S. like carpet.
I've had cicadas in my hair. It is not a good time.
Okay, so here's the deal, and this is why we wanted to do this story right now, because as we look at the weather pattern, it is going to start to warm, and that's where we're going to start off with our weather forecast for today. You can see this live look outside right now, and a beautiful day on this Earth Day. Looking at our temperature trend and our precipitation, it is going to be leaning warmer. So we're starting to edge out of that winter season. The ground will start to warm, and it's very likely in the next couple of weeks, we may indeed start to see that cicada apocalypse in parts of the Great Lakes and the Midwest, even stretching through parts of the Deep South. Now, meantime, for the West Coast, we are going to be likely cooler by the end of April into May, and likely wetter as well. Our transition is already taking shape. We've got a low pressure system off the coast driving in a cooling breeze that's going to drop our temperatures into the 70s. Also igniting a few showers and thunderstorms for this year. That will occur again on Tuesday and into Wednesday. Highs for today pretty similar to over the weekend. 80s to near 90 in the valley, 70s along the coast, 70s for the foothills, and close to 70 for the Sierra. Still gorgeous out there for that evening walk. We've got that southwest wind, that delta breeze tonight. Forecast low at 53. That's how we start off tomorrow. But then the weather this week, 70s making a return. Chances for showers in the hills and the valley, and possible snow showers for the Sierra. We'll see a chance of showers and thunderstorms in the Sierra Tuesday and Wednesday. Dry on Thursday, transition day, as that next low starts to move in. That's going to drop that snow line down to about 6,700 feet and bring us a slight chance for showers. Highs near 60 tomorrow for this year, with 60s and 70s for the foothills. Along the coast, we're in the 60s with 70s throughout the valley. This actually just puts us closer to our average highs. Our highs will drop steadily through the rest of the week. That chance of rain and snow mix for the Sierra on Friday, and then we're back to the dry weather primarily for the weekend with a slightly warmer weather pattern into next week.
All right, Monica, thank you. Next, on to the point. Opening statements in Trump's hush money trial, what happened in court as a witness took the stand, plus the latest on a high-speed rail coming to California, when it's expected to be completed. Tonight, in the historic hush money trial of Donald Trump, both the prosecution and defense gave their opening statements and one witness testified. Here's more from what was said in court.
A historic day in a lower Manhattan courtroom with opening statements in the hush money trial of former President Donald Trump. Prosecutors saying this case is about criminal conspiracy, accusing Trump of arranging a $130,000 payment to adult film actress Stormy Daniels to keep her from revealing their alleged affair right before the 2016 presidential election.
They don't have to technically prove a criminal conspiracy. He is not being charged with anything in that sense. But the criminal conspiracy lends itself towards the falsification of documents as well as the underlying crimes.
Trump shaking his head no while listening to the prosecution tell jurors that he schemed with his former fixer Michael Cohen and former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker to influence the general election by concealing negative information about him. Trump passing notes and whispering to his attorneys at times. Trump's defense attorney telling the jury, "I have a spoiler alert. There is nothing wrong with trying to influence an election. It's called democracy." The defense arguing Trump relied on lawyers to arrange that payment. Trump has long denied the affair and any wrongdoing. He's pleaded not guilty to the charges.
It's a case as to bookkeeping. You pay a lawyer, he's a lawyer, and they call it a legal expense. That's the exact term they use, legal expense.
Prosecutors calling Pecker as their first witness. He once called Trump a personal friend, flashing a smile as he took the stand. Prosecutors accusing him of acting as a co-conspirator and helping buy and bury damaging stories about Trump. Pecker testified that he had final say whether to publish any story involving celebrities.
And court is back in session tomorrow. Pecker is expected to be back on the stand, but first the judge plans to hold a contempt hearing on Trump's alleged violations of the limited gag order in this case. And the social media app TikTok is one step closer to a potential ban in the U.S. Over the weekend, the House of Representatives passing a bill that could ban the app if the Chinese owner ByteDance doesn't sell within a year. Now, the potential measure is lumped into a $95 billion foreign aid package. Top intelligence leaders are concerned user data on the app could become compromised. Now, if it does get banned, some security experts say the app stores would no longer offer the app or provide the updates.
I don't think it's going to pass First Amendment scrutiny because I think there are less restrictive alternatives. We could have made it a crime to transfer Americans' data to an adversarial foreign nation or foreign state interference.
A TikTok spokesperson has called the action unfortunate, saying the bill would trample the free speech rights of 170 million Americans, devastate 7 million businesses, and shutter a platform that contributes $24 billion to the U.S. economy annually. And the Senate is expected to vote on the package tomorrow. President Biden signaled that he would sign the bill, and TikTok has vowed to fight this in court. All right, let's get over to your price points tonight because construction has begun on a $12 billion high-speed passenger rail line from Las Vegas to Los Angeles. And the project called Brightline West is set to be completed by 2028, actually. A Brightline sister company already operates a fast train between Miami and Orlando out in Florida. California track will be located in the median of Interstate 15, similar to Japan's bullet trains. Now, stations will be located in the Hesperia Apple Valley area and Rancho Cucamonga. And right now, one-way fares from Las Vegas and Los Angeles are estimated to be around $200 once it's completed. Next, on To the Point. There is a new state park in Stanislaus County, when you can check it out. A new state park will soon open to the public in the Central Valley. Dos Rios, as it's called, is the first new state park in California in a decade, and it's located just 8 miles west of Modesto and includes 1,600 acres filled with native trees and wildlife. It's the largest public-private floodplain restoration project in California, and visitors can explore the park with a guide who can speak about the land's history and biodiversity. And programming will be offered in both English and Spanish.
I know how important it is to have, these spaces not only for families to visit and have that connection to nature, but also feel a sense of inclusivity.
The $40 million restoration project took 10 years to complete, and the park officially opens to the public on June 12th. Not too bad, just in time for summer. Thank you so much for making us a part of your day. We love, love, love telling your stories and getting to meet you. If you have something we should be looking into, reach out to me and the team. Hey, it's Alex. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching. The To The Point team and I love hearing from you, and I hope that you'll stay in touch. And don't forget, you can always email me and the team at tothepoint@abc10.com, or you can even send us a text message at 916-321-3310.